Welcome back, folks. Sorry about that. Just a few technical issues. Instagram always does that to me for some reason. So we'll just try to restart and get back to the stream again and repeat everything I've just said for the last 5 minutes. Typical Penge was late. So I'll host it and I'll do introductions and then we'll get Penge on. So guys, if you want to send me an invite, a request to join, I'll add you in, mate. Instagram always does this with me for some reason. It always messes me about. Right, Simon. Hope your shift is going well, mate. God damn Instagram, man. Sooner we get to 50 subs, the better. Right, Simon.
Hello, I can't see it. Why is Casey talking to himself like he's underwater on another video?
I don't know, mate. I was sitting waiting for past and he was late, so I just thought I would host it or
He's
something.
talking to himself on another video of the other side. I don't know what's going on.
Maniac, man. Maniac.
I don't know what he's doing. He stopped the video and started another video. I've got like about 20 minutes and then I've got to get back to work. And I've also think I've got COVID, so it's all good.
Maybe got COVID.
I don't know. I haven't got a test. All my tests are out of date and I can't afford. I'm not going to go out and pay £9 for one.
Just use the test.
But it's out of date. But where was it?
Is it used by your best before?
Don't know. It's just an expiry date, isn't it?
It says Dad is unable to join. So I don't know if he's trying to join Penges or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. There we go. He's there. He's here.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
man, how you doing? Still can't see you, but I'm not going to try it for a third time because it's just a
I
complete
can see
maintenance.
him. I can see him. I just can't see you.
Yeah, so I would not actually know what you look like, Dags, up until I rewatch the video tomorrow morning. So
He's had a fresh
specimen,
trim.
man.
He's had a fresh trim. He's had a fresh trim just for this. Last time I saw him, his hair was blonde. He's had a fresh trim.
So just want to say thanks to everybody. This is episode 9 of the Inquisition. My wee fella corrected me this afternoon because he said that Clement News was number 8. But I think we need to jump about with the numbers because I want those ones to be separate. Just want to say big thanks to Polestorm Wargaming for all the support and love, giving us the sponsorship and for keeping Simon in check and giving him out the red carpet treatment when he needs it. And also a big shout out
on Sunday. I went on Sunday and Scott said that the red carpet was in the wash, so I left. No, I didn't really leave, but he did say that.
And also a big shout out to Inferno Miniatures, who does all the wee gifts and graphics for each member coming on. And also a wee shout out to my son Luke Holmes. He's done he's done a wee bit of work getting the YouTube channel up for us and getting all that sorted. So I just want to say thanks for sorry mate.
Said he's our technical genius. He does what us old men can't do.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to say thanks for coming on, Ortags. What is your name, mate? Because I don't want to call you Ortags for the entire podcast. So what is your name?
It's Darren.
I think
Darren.
I've said in our chats about 4 times his name, Dad.
Yeah, but you could have been winding me up, so I actually like to hear it from the horse's mouth. You actually have called him Dad.
I've been here for about 2 years. What a lie.
Is Casey on here at all? Casey,
Yeah.
are you here?
I'm on here. I want to apologise first of all. I did try and host it, but my thing went mental. My phone, for some reason, decided to connect to my Bluetooth earphones, which didn't help. That's why the sound went mental. And then by the time I fixed it all, you guys had started this one up. So apologies for that. Please don't ask me to host ever again.
No, you're thanks. So, thanks for coming on, Daz. Really appreciate you giving up your time to come and speak to us, the 3 Muppets. I'm just going to pass you over to Penge now because he is actually supposed to be doing questions this week. So over to you, Casey. Fire away.
Yeah, cool. So let's start off with the bog standard question we ask everyone straight away. Introduce yourself. Who are you? How did you get into the hobby? What is the hobby for you?
Okay. My name's Darren. I got into the hobby third edition. Basically, used to go shopping with my parents and stuff on a Saturday. Always go the same route in Doncaster and would see like the Games Workshop, and I'd see like really cool painted dragons, things like that in the window, and I'd be like, they look sick. And I would usually like hang around in the shop for 10 minutes while they went into another shop that I didn't want to go in. And then one day, that shop just happened, which is something you probably wouldn't get with GW now, but they had like a sale bin, and
Mm.
it was metal models for 50p, and I
Yeah.
had a bit of pocket money on me, and I was like, I'll
Oh,
pick up 5 of them, and then they gave me, I actually had it here already, this.
Ah, yeah.
So they gave me that for free, which is, it's got all the Golden Demon 99 winners in it. So it was like a great catalogue of like really cool models, things like that. And I was just like, I need to do this. You know what I mean? I was like probably like 12, something like that. Maybe 11. Yeah, and just got into it that way. It started
See,
out
That's the cover for the third edition Space Wolf Codex as well.
it is, yeah. And you've sort of hit two things on the head there. That first of all, those bargain bins, they were amazing back in the day when I was younger, starting out.
Yeah, blister
Like you say,
packs, metal minis for 50p.
yeah. I have many a second edition Metal Space Marine from them. But also the Free White Dwarf, that doesn't happen anymore, does it?
No. They had a big pile of them, and he dug that one out because I think I picked Rune Priest in Terminator armor out of the bin, and I was like, I'll take this. And then he was like, oh, if you like Space Wolves, take this issue, and it had all the Space Wolves in it, things like that.
Sick. So
Yes.
you use the name Orc Daggers. Obviously, you're an Orc man.
Yeah.
Tell us about your Orc collection, because I've followed you for a while. It's pretty extensive, and you've got a fair good few things in there.
Yeah. Well, back when I started when I was a kid as well, I first started out with Space Marines. I used to go along to I think I painted Blood Angels, and I had like a few Space Marines and a Rhino, because I think on a Saturday morning for the beginner sessions they'd be like, bring along 1 infantry, 1 transport, something like that, or like a vehicle, and that's what you got to play in the big group. And I would play Space Marines, and I was like, I don't really want to play these. And then as soon as I heard Orcs could loot vehicles, and I was like, you can loot vehicles, you can have anybody else's, you can have their tanks, you can take a Lehman Russ, anything. I was like, I want to do Orcs. I want to be more creative with it. I don't want to be stuck to this. You build a Rhino, you paint it how it is on the box sort of thing. I was like, I want to do something my own, like I was always quite creative, things like that. So I was like, I'm going to be Orcs, and I chopped up the Rhino that I had for my Space Marines, turned it into a truck, and I would take that along with my 10 boys on a Saturday, and that's how I started. But then kind of fell out of the hobby, and just got back into it just before like the lockdowns and stuff, really.
Yeah.
I walked past the Games Workshop, and I saw the Mega Boss.
Mm-hmm.
He was like on all the posters and stuff in the shop, quite big on the walls, and I was like, he looks really cool. And I always liked Orcs. I'd still played like Dawn of War, things like that for years and stuff. So I still kind of like had an interest in the hobby, but it was more like a bit more background, you know what I mean? And then kind of got back into it then, but it kind of just like hit the ground and started running with it, because and I think now since then I've got about over 8k painted of Orcs at the minute since before lockdown.
Yeah, I think what you've sort of said is quite similar, not just to sort of my story with the hobby, but a lot of other people's as well, in that got into it sort of pre-Dawn of War, fell out of love with it. Dawn of War kept ticking in the background, and then again pre-COVID, I think for me it was the Imperium magazines or whatever, when they started coming out. I was like, you know what, I'm going to jump on that again. I just had a kid, it was something to do. He's sitting there behind you. I've got to ask the Gargan.
Yep.
How long did that take?
About a month.
Just solid chopping up, painting.
Yeah. Can I interject, because I'm not going to be here for long? Having known Daz, incidentally, me and Daz met through Bother Paint. We did a filmed a battle report in 2021, about November this time of year, and that's on my page. And the one thing about Daz is because we're in a group chat together, the Warhammer Boys. That's our group chat on Instagram. He will put like a picture in the group chat of this like the last one was his Squigosaur, so it was like a dinosaur with loads of green stuff on it. And then literally 2 days later, he puts a picture on of it completed. And I just don't know how he does it so quick. It's unbelievable how fast he can build stuff and how fast he can paint stuff. And I don't mean just paint stuff to like a tabletop standard. He's painted to a really good level, a lot quicker than I ever could. And we've been to a few events together, and he's always up there for things like best painted army, armies on parade, that sort of stuff. But his turnaround is amazing. Unfortunately, he can't roll dice that fast, because I'm sure if Sid was in the chat, we'd say back in the days of ninth, especially when his orc shooting phase was like buckets of dice, me and Sid used to joke that we could go to Bugman's, get a pint, have a pint, come back, and he'd still be rolling dice.
I was going to say, you two have rolled dice in anger against each other, so how's that always turned out for you both?
Oh, it's always been great. We've had quite a few good games now, haven't we?
I think we obviously don't play competitively, really competitively. I think we've never met each other in an event, which is weird.
No.
We always seem to avoid drawing each other in events. I think I've won one, Daz has probably won one, we've drawn a few. Sid's won one when we've played three-way games, so it's pretty even, but we aren't really out for each other's blood, as it were. It's just a good laugh, and to be fair, I just think we're there for fun, really. I mean, a lot of the time we'll probably get through 2 or 3 turns and it'll be 3 hours gone because we've been talking in between turns and whatever else. Or especially when you've got Dazzy's conversions everywhere. If you're in somewhere like Warhammer World, people will just keep coming over to you and talking to you anyway.
It's the annoying thing of having a good army, isn't it? People are interested in you and disrupting your games. But
it happens. We play like narrative games on Wednesdays usually. Quite like there's a good little group of us and we play pretty regularly. But yeah, I'm always getting stopped. Oh, is that Squigosaur? Have you made this? Is doing this? Oh, that's great. And it's really cool. I really like that side of the hobby. I quite like
at March of Winters. Sorry to jumping again. At March of Winters, people were talking to me and going, and they were calling him that guy with the Squigosaur. I was like, I know that guy with the Squigosaur. He's my mate. But yeah, it's just old friend. It's just like things like that. I mean, it's just so unusual. I mean, I wish I had the creative skill that Daz has got, to be honest. But yeah, when he puts he's got a Gorkanaut which is bigger than a normal Gorgon. It's massive, and it's all made out of like spare bits, and it's unbelievable. And again, that's another model which people see it and just stop, and then you have to have the conversation. Because you have to. It's just so unusual to see all these conversions. I mean, first time I saw his army, he was getting all this stuff out, and I was like, "Oh, your Dakajet is Gaz," and that's this and that's that, and it's unbelievable. I wish I had the skill to do it. I'll be honest.
So just
anyway, sorry.
Leading on from that, where does your creative side of what you're angling for? Where do you get that from? What do you tap into?
I think the raw energy of the WoW. I think I try to build stuff as if I'm an orc. You know what I mean? Like, how would an orc build this? What would they take? What bits would they take from another kit? Or if they were looting something, how would they kind of do it? Or if it's, and especially because I do bad moons and I try to do it more shooty, give it more like glowing energy. I mean, things like that, or like a gnarly power supply on the back or something, you know, to kind of tap into the lore a little bit of like what a bad moon would do. Putting more guns on it than possible because they're showing off.
Yeah. It's what bad moons are about, yeah. So when you're planning your stuff out, do you ever? What's your approach to it? Do you have an idea in your mind? Do you sit down and doodle for a bit, get an idea of like what you want it to look like it on paper, or?
No, I don't really do like doodles on paper. I'd probably say it's more like it's a kind of an approach of just like start off with a very basic thing. So the last thing I built was like a squig with a chariot.
Yeah.
So I would like put the wheels on first, kind of like put something very crude to kind of join them together. This is if I'm doing a kit bash. Yeah, put them together, and then I'll just start holding pieces on. Like I've got a big box full of like plastic bits. I'll like hold something on, go, does that look right? If it does,
Mhm.
it fits like a jigsaw piece. I'll just kind of put it there, glue it, and then just keep trying bits. And sometimes just kind of like hold it away, squint at it, things like that. See if it passes the test of like, does it look good as a silhouette?
Yeah.
Does it make sense why it's there? Does it fit? Does it make it look good if it was like a flat image of an illustration? Would it read well
Yeah.
from that angle?
And on that, do you exclusively use GW products? Because I know back third, fourth, and even fifth editions, there was always with Orcs especially, there was a tendency just to go like into your nearest toy shop, buy a car, and just glue a ton of glyphs and all sorts of madness onto it. So do you stick, where obviously you're involved in events, do you stick exclusively to the official products? Do you venture out to third parties, or do you just go hell for leather and kit bash anything?
A little bit of everything. I don't keep it solely GW because I think it's not limited. There's like an endless amount of choice, but I think sometimes just like building something out of a toy car, even if it's just stealing the wheels off a toy car or something.
Yeah.
But I know with the Squigosaur, it was a dinosaur I found at a car boot, and I was like, I really want to make a squig. I was like, is that right? That looks like it could be a decent sort of size for the tabletop.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I just bought this £3 toy dinosaur. I mean, I literally have it behind me here as well. So.
It is sick. I'll be honest. It is sick.
Has it stomped you into the dirt a few times? Does that
No,
help?
not me.
So this is
I've seen it stomp people into the dirt, but not me personally.
No,
it
yeah.
didn't really,
Yeah.
but yeah. I don't have a picture of what it looked like before on me right now, but so you can kind of see there, like that was like more the original toy, and I built like bits for.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always remembered they had the Forge World Squigosaur for like a long, long time, and it was ridiculous. It was huge. It was beautiful, but it was Forge World, so
Yeah.
it's going to cost you like a mortgage payment. So
£320 because I looked it up when I was
yeah,
looking.
I think
So I tried to
wasn't that
stick
one of
to
the
similar measurements to it. I was even looking at that model for inspiration, going, how does its tusks look? How does its mouth look? Things like that. And
yeah.
trying to like replicate that a little bit with green stuff and
Mhm.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because when you say 350 quid, I think that was one of the first proper resins that they did as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you got a
Yeah.
good couple of years back. Yeah, so just speaking on your gaming side as well, I dabbled with Orcs in fifth. I think, what was it? The Assault on Blackreach box when that came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had some funny games with them. And that is, I think, something that does, if I'm ever going to do another army, it will be Orcs. But you've got to have some stories about rolling dice with them, about some sort of insanity that just shouldn't have worked and did.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in my like little group that we play narratively at the moment. I'm known for rolling. I mean, like, especially as Simon said before, it's so like my Dakajet in ninth would be rolling like 54 shots on a speed war. 54.
It,
I
it's a
always take
taking tendons to count the
yeah,
dice.
I always take these little green dice, the official GW ones, but the small ones because I couldn't hold
Yeah.
54 big dice in my hands, and I always roll statistically above average. Usually, I'm like too much to the point where people go, it's a Darren roll. I've even had it at tournaments where people that I don't know go, that's a lot of dice. That's a lot of six. That's a lot of fives and sixes. Like Orcs are not meant to be able to shoot. And I think it's kind of. I mean, like it's just a look at the dice, really. But and especially the weight of dice. But I quite like it for a shooty Orc army. I prefer playing my Orc shooty as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, all my friends do say like, yeah, you roll hot. You roll too many fives and sixes for somebody who should be missing a lot of shots. But then to the point where like I got a 5 and a 6 tattooed on me for Orc shooting, just so I can rub it in a little bit while I'm rolling. That's my dice hand.
We haven't tested his dice to see if they've been weighted yet.
Oh no, they've been tested by my friends in the narrative group because they say every time someone else says it, they'll go, he rolls too much. They'll be like, yes, it's the man, not the dice. That's the motto.
So I think for me, the maddest one I had was, do you remember the old tank shock rules from like third and fourth?
Not really, no, because I didn't really play. I only played a little bit of like around that era, and that was
If,
like on a
if,
Saturday, and I basically got
if you're
told what to
talking
run.
Tank Shock in 10th is a joke.
I
I'll
love it.
move
I
on
love
to that.
it.
I was going to move on to 10th in a
Tank
minute.
Shock in 10th is a joke.
Cool. We'll come back to that. But I played a practice game of Orcs, and a mate of mine had a big Imperial Guard army, and he decided he wanted to try and drive over my Mega Knobs. And this one Mega Knob, just with a power claw, just punched the front of his tank, and I rolled nothing but sixes on the damage, on the explosions, everything. And that's always just stuck out of the insanity of what an orc is, that the stuff like this just comes off, and you know in your head, back of your head, you're like, this shouldn't work, but in your mind's eye, it is like pure computer game cut screen insanity.
Yeah.
And it's always something that I think with orcs especially always sort of sticks out for me. So yeah, as Simon's saying, moving on to 10th, how are you finding that with orcs? What are you finding the sort of differences are, any sort of changes, or?
I'm enjoying it. I think they're in a good place. There's a few things I'd probably like want to change. The main thing I'd want to change is the price of a Stomper, because it's 800 points and it's good, but when people can do mortal wounds to it and devastating wounds, and Eldar can auto 6+2 damage it or whatever, right? It's not worth 800 points, but it is really fun to play. So definitely would reduce the cost of that. But I think the other thing is I'm really looking forward to is getting a codex, because as somebody who plays shooty orcs and has built all the buggies, things like that, and I prefer to bring a load of bikes, a lot of guns. I mean, reducing bikes from like 10 shots to 5 and giving us twin linked for re-rolling your wounds just doesn't really work for orcs anymore. So orc
Yeah.
shoot, like, as somebody who played a shooty army and loved playing shooting, I'm not getting to do that anymore. So I've had to kind of change the way I play orcs a lot in 10th. I never really wanted to chase the like Goths meta in 9th. I wasn't really that bothered about bringing guards and getting exploding sixes, and then obviously in 10th we've been kind of forced to play that style, and I'm like, I like it, I'm enjoying it. It's made me learn to play a lot more tactically and things like that. But I do miss shooting. And the other day I took the Stomper to a game, and I just got to do a lot of shooting, and it was great, and I enjoyed it. And I lost because I had no units that could hold objectives, and they couldn't really play 10th having just this Stomper and a couple of units here or there, some grots, whatever. But I did have a great game, and I did miss shooting. So I'm really looking forward to getting the codex so we can have some kind of like shooting detachment, something like that, which represents a bit more like bad moons. Would be good. But I have been leaning a bit more into like competitive play, going to like local RTTs things as well. So I have had to kind of play a bit more meta units that I probably wouldn't, and I'm enjoying them. I think it works really well.
Cool. So just where you were saying about tank shock, Simon, go on. What's going on with it? What's the madness of it?
The tank shock's a strat now, 1 CP strat, and it states that if you play it, then the strength of the weapon on the tank, which in a case of a land raider in melee is strength 6, you roll as many dice as there are strength, and every, I think it is, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 or 4, 5 or 6 you rolls, and 5 and 6 is a mortal wound, right? Fine. However, it's the strength of the weapon. So you know the little Paragon war suits that the Sisters of Battle have?
Yep.
They've got a vehicle keyword, so they can tank shock. Their melee weapons are strength 12. So you get hit by a land raider, it's 6 rolls. If you get hit by a woman in a metal suit, that's 12 rolls. So a maximum of mortal wounds. So dreadnoughts and walkers are better at tank shock than actual tanks. So like I say, it's just mental.
Orc trucks are very good as well, because the truck has the wrecking ball, which is strength 10. Goes up to strength 11 on the war.
I just, getting hit by a wrecking ball on a speeding truck, to me, is
that makes
more
sense.
tank shot than someone in a suit of armour walking into you. I just think for a 1 CP strike, incredibly powerful.
It is capped at a max of 6 though, so
Yeah,
even
but
though she gets
6 mortal wounds,
yeah.
6 mortal wounds in a unit for 1 CP, and if you're rolling 12 dice, you're probably going to get minimum 4 on a 5 or a 6, 3 or 4. That's not bad return for 1 CP. For me, that's undercosted by a long way, and it shouldn't really apply to walkers, in my honest opinion. It should apply to actual vehicles with wheels and tracks.
I could see that being a bit.
Yeah, maybe they'll take that then.
Saying that with walkers and stuff, though, I did do it with my Stomper once.
Stomper, though, again, it's not like a Dreadnought, is it? It's huge.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd accept it on a
24.
Stomper. I'd accept it on a Stomper. I'd accept it on a Titan. I'd even accept it on a Big Knight, but not Paragon Warsuit or a Redemptor Dreadnought. Wouldn't be smashing into you and doing all that.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your games then, with your orcs so far in 10th, have you found there's sort of things that you're guaranteed to come out on top of opponent-wise, things that you sort of opponents that you know you're going to have a tough time against?
I did a little bit at first because I think at first Custodians were disgusting. Like the first time I took orcs to an RTT in 10th, I think I had a pretty meta list, so I was doing the whole truck spam, beast snaggers, knobs, and did great in my first game. Second game, I ended up with Custodes, and this was when Trajan could fight first. They could use strats for 0 CP here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah,
and it was the worst game. Like, I just got battered. Everything had saves against the devastating wounds, and orcs, you don't have much AP, so their saves were great, and the devastating wounds that I did do were like here and there, and then they just saved them. So I'd really found Custodes. So I think the latest changes in the when they did the data sheets, I think when they did a little update, I think did kind of fix that. I don't know how it is good for Custodes players. Obviously, it's not good for them.
The one thing it did is what GW always do, and this is why when you look at the rankings, the top 4 are now the bottom 4, other than Eldon, is they go too far. So the points increase was justifiable. I think my 2,000 point custodial list went up by 250 points, so I had to reduce it right down. You lose so many models. I think I lost about 5 or 6 models, which for custodians is like a unit or 2.
Yeah, half an hour.
But the one thing that because we haven't got the codexes yet, the one thing it did do was the change in the devastating wounds. Because Custodians had a 4+ shrug against mortals, and then when they said devastating wounds just go straight through, that reduced how durable your army list was. So combined with the points increase, you've all of a sudden gone. I mean, if you look, it depends who you're playing. It is very matchup specific. But a list like an Eldar as a faction, I think they've got at least 12 units that can do devastating wounds if you include HQs. And Custodians have now got no save against, no shrug against that, no save against that. It just goes straight through. So you're they raise the points, so they reduce the army size, which is fair enough because I'm start at 10th. I remember I was fielding a lot more Custodians than I could in 9th. But then on top of that, by changing the rules for devastating wounds, they then negated the toughness of Custodians. So you combine the two, and that's why they went from 57% to 49%. That's why you're seeing that drop, because again, they went too far. They sort of GW sort of go too far one way, and the faction goes right up. And then to bring it down, they proper smash it into the floor, and it goes too far down. So now what they're going to have to do is try and bring them back up to the middle again, which is probably going to involve a points decrease again. So it's sort of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's one of them, I think, when they're sort of looking at all the meta lists and working out rankings and stuff that always affects those sorts of things. But it is, you are right. In the last edition, especially, you'd see like 1,000 Suns at the top, and then the next list they drop down, and there was always something that would be up there one week and then down there the next. So there is like a fine line of the balance of the game.
Yeah, it's
like
Death Guard at the minute.
Right, people, I'm going to have to go back to work, unfortunately. So have a good rest of your stream. I will listen on while I'm working. See you later.
See you later, dude.
Catch you in a bit, mate. Cool. Thank you for joining Insight. Sorry he's had to go back to work. I was going to ask you about your narrative
Mhm.
games that you play? Because I'll be honest, narratives are always something that sort of appealed to me a bit. In that, like, I think when I back in the day was playing, it was during the big worldwide campaigns that they did. They did the big
Yeah.
Armageddon one. They did the Eye of Terror one. How have you gotten into that, and how are you finding all of that sort of stuff?
By chance, uh, sh- uh, I tattoo for a living,
Mhm.
um, and a guy came into the tattoo shop. Me and him used to talk a lot of like Star Wars things like that while he was like cleaning the windows. Was his job. Um, and me and him every I think it was every Tuesday or Wednesday he'd come in. We'd like have a little chat about sci-fi things like that. And one day I just happened to mention Warhammer, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I've just bought this for my brother-in-law." And I was like, "Oh, so you know Warhammer?" And he was like, "No, hot Warhammer, I live it." And I was like, "Okay, we should sort a game." Little did I know that they basically play it almost kind of like D&D, where I
Yeah,
mean Jack, who I play with, who I'm talking about now, he he makes solar systems. He will Photoshop whole solar system, like an image of a solar system, and give planets names, things like that. And then they will start a campaign. So, and he uses like spreadsheets, and he writes, he'll he'll like write entire kind of like stories basically
yeah,
about one character and one little event. So in ninth we did a Dracus campaign, which was basically in this small system, and sometimes we had a little group chat, and he would post a link and go, "Oh, I've written a little bit of fluff," and then the little bit of fluff would turn out to be like a novel, and it wouldn't even be about necessarily something that happened in the event, but it'd be like a lead up to it. So in the end, we did like the orcs invaded the prime planet at the end. And he wrote a whole story about a grot that was delivering a special package, and he didn't know what it was, and yeah, and it ended up being that he was delivering my warlord to the planet. And then he managed to win. He won the race because he was racing all the other orcs and grots that were doing the same thing with their rockets. And as he crashed into the floor, his name was Nimble as well, by the way, the grot, which was just Jack's choice. Um, and my war boss then comes out of the crate, and Nimble's so happy that he won the race, but then the war boss just comes out and runs over him. So that's the kind of thing that he does with the sort of narrative. And this grot is, but he was happy to die that way because I just.
yeah.
But Jack will do it like so. He'll ask like, we've got a little Discord, and it'll be like write about your characters in there. So just so he's got a bit of like information that he can put into his story. So we
Mhm.
now have named characters. We now have things like that. Yeah,
Cool.
and
And
you just
do
kind of
you,
keep expanding on it. Yeah.
yeah, do you find that given the sort of nature of that, then that you're sort of tinkering your armies to sort of fit in with like the narratives that have been written, and as well,
Yeah.
like even thinking just like with terrain and stuff, because that's always something that always appeals to me is building terrain for like an idea I've got going on. Do you find that you're sort of forming boards around the stories as well? And
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things was like at the end of the campaign, there was like a giant walled imperial city. By that time, I had my stomper finished, so I was like, right, the stompers come in. Um, Jack had even made a map of the city with all the walls. He'd named gates after old characters from previous narratives that he's played, stuff like that. And then we made the gate out of terrain. We made the board very like asymmetrical. It was very much like a city at one end and then a wasteland at the other.
yeah,
And the Stomper and all the orcs were coming out of the wasteland towards the city. And we made a special mission where you had to like do a ritual at the gate. I think we used one of the like the theater of war kind of crusade missions where it was like you've got to do a ritual on a certain objective. And that was basically like the orcs planting a bomb to take down the gate.
yeah, it makes
I
sense.
think I ended up like not. I ended up losing that game, but what happened was the Stomper happened to like, got to the gate. It was the final little bit, and I was about to win the mission, and then the Stomper was killed. And luckily, I rolled a six, so the Stomper exploded and took out all the characters around the gate. And even though I lost the mission, we were saying that because the Stomper just happened to explode on a six, at the very end of the game, the explosion like partially took down the gate. So then the city was able to be breached. Yeah.
It's what I mean earlier about those typical little orky, little consequences of them, isn't it? That you're having a cracking game and then something mad would happen, and you just sort of sit there and shrug and be like, "That's the orcs, isn't it?"
Yeah. It's like energy weapons, things like that. It's like everyone else gets the choice to overcharge it. It's like we don't orcs. We always get to overcharge it because that's what an orc would do. If they got the choice of do I shoot it normally or do I overcharge it? Well, you don't get
Yeah.
the choice because orcs would always choose to overcharge. So I think that's why we take the penalty for like roll a one. Or, like a lot of energy weapons will be that, and it just makes sense to the orcs. Like,
Cool. So we've got a question in chat there, and I think this is actually good given your history of looting vehicles. Would some of the Horus Heresy tanks be good for looted orc vehicles? I mean, what's your thoughts?
oh yeah, definitely. I think so. I mean, I can't remember the names of. I'm not really like too into the like Horus Heresy, like lore and following the models and stuff. But is it like a Spartan, something like that?
Yeah.
Or there's an even bigger one that's like almost kind of like got a big door on the front that looks like a big Land Raider looking thing.
Yeah, I think I know the one you mean, but it's the sort of typical. Even a rhino would look good
Yeah,
with
yeah,
some holes in it and
yeah,
all sorts of stuff.
yeah.
So
I think any vehicles would work. Kind of really is just as long as you get creative with it. Put like a little bit of think how would an orc loot this vehicle? Like even if it's like put a face on it, you know what I mean? Like orcs always build effigies to their gods. Things they put in faces on things all the time. So
I mean, it's
give it a
it's
jaw,
the
teeth.
it's the looted con effects, isn't it? At the end of the day,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
look at it, if it's stupid enough, do it. It's the orcs.
yeah.
Who cares?
I mean, one of the I can't remember who did it now. I've got it on my Instagram somewhere, but there was a guy who did do you know because they've got the new Skitarii model on stilts. I've
Yeah.
already
Oh, I've seen
seen
it. Yeah,
someone's made the orc on stilts. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And he's
It's
shooting
bigger.
like a
Yeah,
missile. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I know Dunk is a fan of ink, and obviously you've mentioned your tattoos. But what apart from your diet have you got on you?
Oh, I mean, my back, my legs covered, my torso's covered, all my arms, neck. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really like stopping anytime soon. So, I don't have any Warhammer tattoos yet, other
Okay.
than the dice, but I do plan on getting some at some point.
Go
Um,
on, then. When
ne-
you're planning, what are you thinking of?
there's a guy down in London who does like really cool, like he's got his own style going on, and he does orcs. So I think I'd probably just go for something like that. I think probably on my thigh because I've not got much leg room left on my legs. So I've got mostly just like painful places now, where it's like stomach, neck, head, ribs, things like that. So
Inside this all the soft meat bits.
yeah, all the soft bits. So I think I'll maybe the back of the thigh for that.
Yeah, Dunk. I think the video has improved a bit, mate. We're going to obviously have a look into this and see what we can sort out for it. But it is what it is for the time being. So, apart from we've obviously been chatting orcs for ages, and I could continue chatting about orcs all bloody night
Yeah,
because I love them. There is one last thing I will mention before we move on with them. Did you play? What was it? Blood, Shooters, and Teeth.
I did. Yeah, yeah.
What
I
did
thought
you
it was
think? Because
great.
I thought it was
I
absolutely
loved it.
amazing.
As a kid, me and my friend used to play what was it? Metal Slug.
Yes.
You ever played Metal Slug?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
used
it's
to love Metal
very much
Slug.
like
Yeah,
loved Metal Slug, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, "That's Metal Slug, but with orcs."
yeah, yeah. The
So I had to get it straight away. Yeah,
the fighting the knight, I think, was a standout point because it
yeah.
just made no sense whatsoever.
No,
But it was like, you know what? Let's just run with
yeah,
it.
it's orcs. Um, but yeah, I loved it. I also thought the fact that the whole thing was just because the boss had stole the hair squig off a knob, and
Yeah,
it was like it wasn't a big mission to save the galaxy or anything. It was just a knob wanted his hair squig back, and I love that. I
yeah,
think that's great.
definitely. So, like I said, we've chatted about your orcs. Any other sort of stuff that you've done, not just limiting yourself to 40k, fantasy, any other sort of game systems?
I've not really touched too many other game systems because I think for me, like I've people ask me to do like AOS things like that, and I'm like, I'm invested so much in the army that I've got that I don't know if I really want to kind of like learn another game system, invest in another army, things like that. I have looked at like some of the Star Wars stuff and that, but I think you kind of have to paint them as is, and you know, what I mean, if you're playing
Yeah.
Darth Maul, you have to paint Darth Maul, things like that. So I'm like, it doesn't really interest me that much. Um,
And with
what's the other one? Bolt. What's that?
bolt action, the World
Bolt
War Two
action.
one.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen people playing that, and it looks quite interesting. But yeah, it's sorry, my cat just tried to jump up on my desk and failed, so kind of got a bit
You know what it is?
distracted there.
I'm always in work meetings, and there's always a bloody cat that runs across somebody's screen, or the worst thing is they turn around and shove their fucking ass
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the camera.
that's something he
I
would do.
hate
Yeah,
cats.
I mean, he's trying to climb on me right now, so he's
Oh, there he is.
here he is. I might as well give you a bit of screen time. This is Ollie.
He's a Bobby Dazzler, as the missus would say. So, with your other sort of sci-fi stuff, you've touched on
Mhm.
Star Wars. What are your other sort of main interests?
Um, it's anything like I love horror films,
Mhm.
dystopian kind of sci-fi films, fantasy things like that. Yeah.
Cool.
Obviously tattooing and art is like it's my job, but it's also kind of like a passion.
Mhm.
I have tried to kind of cross over the tattooing with Warhammer a little bit as well. So I started drawing like tattoo flash, things like that. So it was yeah, trying to do like one of every faction. I've not done all of them yet, but I've kind of what I've found is a lot of people that have been getting the tattoos have been getting Death Guard stuff. So Death Guard and Orcs and Sisters of Battle seem to be like
Yeah.
the main three that I've tattooed at the moment. But yeah, I really enjoyed kind of like trying to cross over like two different passions together and stuff, which has been
Yeah.
really really fun.
A friend of mine, I know, Dunk, you said you've got some 40k tats, haven't you?
Yeah, I actually sent them to Daz earlier on today. It took me years to find the guy who did my Death Guard Plague Marine. Took me years to find somebody who'd do that justice. So, like, you have to do your research with tattoos. And I've got a couple of nerd ones, and I'm going to be getting another couple of nerd ones done in 2 or 3 weeks' time with the same guy. So
Nice.
hopefully.
What is it you're getting next?
Two other nerd ones. I'm getting the wee sassy nerd one.
Oh,
No,
nice.
the one with the helmet
Yeah.
on,
Yeah, yeah.
and the one running about with the poo. Uh, one running with a poo on a stick or something. So
Stick
yeah,
grenade, isn't it?
that's
It's not a turd.
yeah. And then I was actually speaking to Kevin, my tattoo guy, and I said to him I want him to do brand for a knuckle on my calf. So, but that'll probably be mostly freehand regs on retwist on it as well. So yeah.
But there you go. You've got someone promoting you in the chat there. Darren does the best Warhammer tattoos. So praise indeed.
Yeah, that's my girlfriend, Hannah.
You're not
She's
paid us to
also a
say that, have you?
tattooist. No, I haven't. No, she is.
And
She
ignore
does
me
really
jumping in here,
good work.
Casey.
Go
Just
for
want
it.
to ask Darren about the tattooing.
Mhm.
Like, at what age did you start tattooing folk, and was it due to your love of the hobby painting, or is it just something that you naturally progress with? Like, have you got a talent, a natural talent with that?
I mean, I've always done art. Like even as a little kid, I used to be doing art and stuff like that. And I was I was probably about like 12, 13 years ago, something like that, that I was like, oh, I want to use the talents that I have. So I was like designing people t-shirts because I skateboard as well. So I mean, not so much as I get older now, but definitely used to more then. And it was like being around like punk music, skateboarding, things like that. Illustration, designs, graphics, things like that were all quite like prominent. So I would try and do that, but then started getting tattoos as well. And I was like, oh, I think I can kind of give this a go. You know what I mean? So that kind of learning to try and draw like more tattoo style, I suppose, which kind of lends itself the same from like stickers, skateboard graphics, things like that. All kind of like work similar to tattoos anyway.
Mm.
And I didn't really do like any kind of like hobby stuff that at that point in my life. I didn't really get into that till later. My friend Johnny, who's also a tattooist, I was actually going over to his shop, and he said to me, "Oh, I'm having a Warhammer night after, so do you want to come around?" And I was like, "I don't have any," and I ended up picking up the flash kits because I just like that looks like a cool kit to build, and they've got loads of like customizable guns and kind of suited me anyway. So that was like the first thing I bought, and then I just kind of just threw that in a cupboard after that night and didn't really do much with it. But then was really grateful that I'd bought flash kits when I actually got back into the hobby properly.
Painting yellow, not for me.
Yeah, I definitely have kind of found a way of doing it. I think actually I just spotted that friend of mine, Lewis. He'll show up in the chat as Ash's Tattoo. Um, he was one of the first people that kind of got me back into playing the hobby as well, because he has a lot of like kit bashed custom orcs as well, and me and him would have like orcs v orcs at the beginning to try and get me into the 8th edition Codex rules, where Lewis was starting to teach me the game. And everyone should check out Lewis's page 2, which is Ghost Blood
Cool.
with an underscore. He does like really bright pink orcs, and they definitely have their own flavor. Lewis did give me a lot of hints on how to paint stuff as well. So me and him both kind of use like Typhus Corrosion to put a bit of texture down, things like that. And I definitely think that texture just helps the paint go on a little bit easier. And I find that makes painting yellow. I've tried painting yellow with and without Typhus, and I definitely think it kind of helps just having a little bit gritty texture to put the yellow on. But it doesn't. I know it doesn't work for like every army. If you want a really clean yellow army, it's probably not going to help.
Yeah, but even that's something that I've even never considered. So that's part of what we do this for. It's just to chat to people, find out what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So that's a brilliant little tip. So definitely be stored up here.
Definitely for something a bit more like rusty, if you want that kind of like weathered, gnarly looking metal, I'd recommend. Yeah, Typhus is great. Typhus, and then the texture, give it a little dry brush. Cool. Really brings out the kind of
Yeah, there's a shade that I use for when I'm doing yellow. It's Fugen something or other. That's pretty decent. Yeah, that's pretty decent as well. And the Dursa contrast paint. There's a few contrast paints that you can pretty much just get away with using for like shades as well.
Yeah. I actually, when I first got back into the hobby, I really didn't enjoy the painting side whatsoever. I remember like I love the kit bashing, love the idea of playing it, but painting, I was just like, oh. And I started trying to use contrast paints, and I ruined a lot of models by just throwing on a yellow kind of contrast and not really knowing what I was doing with it. I think it was when the contrast paints had just come out. Whereas, now I think they've definitely got their use, but I think it's maybe not just throwing it on straight.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I dabble with a bit of yellow Imperial Fist at most, and it's brilliant, but yellow's not for me. I don't think I've ever gotten over the rubbish yellows from years and years and years ago, and it's horribly scarred me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, when I started doing my Necron, like my own Necron dynasty, I stupidly thought, oh, I'll do it like instead of being green, the glowy bits being green, I'll do them as yellow, and it was such a nightmare just to try and get that nailed in as well. It's an absolute, because you're trying to find the right colours to go over yellows, but then you don't want to dye them into other colours as well. It was an absolute nightmare, to be honest.
I've never actually tried doing a yellow glow, but yeah, that sounds. I actually think that'd look really cool on some Necrons, like a yellow-orange glow could look pretty good.
Probably would. Yeah. Dunk, have you got any other questions, mate? Because I've been rambling on for ages. So,
like, do you get many people like looking for Warhammer tattoos, and where you are, like, do you get many a year? Do people hunt you down for your Warhammer tattoos?
I mean, I've had a few where I've gone to like guest spots. So I've been over in Yorkshire, I've been over in Manchester, things like that. And especially when I went over to Manchester, went to Dan Morris, who's a tattooist in Manchester, but he also actually plays Warhammer. Like I did a guest spot at his, me and him tattooed together, and then went back to his and had a game of Warhammer afterwards. You know what I mean? But I kind of made a little post that was, I think I drew a picture of an orc on it and said, I'm guessing at this shop. And the only tattoos I did while I was there was Warhammer tattoos. So I did like a demon, and I did someone got a custom chapter Space Marine as well on them.
And you also do graphics as well for people. I know, like you've done Simons, and like I've been speaking to you about maybe doing a wee one for us at some point if this kind of kicks off. Do you get much work through that as well?
Here and there, that's not something that like I kind of like push too much, but I do take commissions on things like that if people want to, but I'm not like actively promoting that at the moment. I'm actually doing some kit bash kind of commissions at the moment as well, so but juggling kind of like my own hobby commissions as well as tattooing, drawing every day for that. So it's not something I like take too much to kind of like promote that I'll do, but I do it if people ask, kind of thing.
I mean, it must be pretty full on, like tattooing all day and then coming home and doing more colouring in on little plastic soldiers. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you do to unwind from the why yourself? Do you pray to Mork and Gork and
I think just like yeah, I do spend a lot of time being creative. I think if not, it's just I'll just sit on the sofa and watch like a good horror film with my girlfriend, something like that, you know. And that's like kind of like an unwind if I'm not doing any hobbying or drawing tattoos, like that's kind of something like
talking about horror films? Did you watch any good horror films over the festive
that.
season
I
at
actually
all?
watched Alien yesterday for the first time since I was probably a kid. Loved it. Yeah. And I think we were both trying to watch it through this like new mindset as adults. They'll been like, oh, I don't remember watching it since I was like a little kid. I had all the Alien figures when I was a kid, but I only knew like a couple of key scenes from the film. But I think like watching it this time, like understanding a lot more of the dialogue and stuff, I enjoyed it so much. And I was also trying to watch it like through the idea of like, imagine watching this for the first time in the 80s and it being brand new and being like, wow. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, there's a documentary and it's a guy called Alejandro Jodorowsky. He made like really old films in the 70s, but he was going to make Dune in the 70s.
Heard of
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
there's a documentary. So it was before the David Lynch one. He was gonna make Dune, and it was like Salvador Dali was gonna be the Emperor. Orson Welles was gonna be in it, and he only agreed because he was gonna hire the chef from his favorite restaurant to cook meals for him on set, things like that. And I watched the documentary about that, and that was great. And Geiger did all the artwork for it, and I kind of feel like that film was stopped. They chopped it all up, and it became Alien. We wouldn't have Alien, we wouldn't have Star Wars, we wouldn't have Flash Gordon if that film had been made.
Yeah.
But yeah, a really good documentary worth checking out. I just think it's called like Alejandro Jodorowsky's Dune.
Definitely give it a look. I remember reading something about it a while ago.
It's really
Yeah.
interesting. And I think it kind of like it sounds like they basically took that, split up, and we owe a lot to that film for like a lot of the greats we got now. Yeah.
So how did you find? I'm going to overrule you here, Doug. Sorry, mate. Just because I saw back when it was the 20th of April, the old 420 day.
Yeah.
426 even. Sorry. I saw Alien in the cinema, and I tried to think of it exactly the same way that you did. I went with my girlfriend, bought me the ticket. She'd never seen it.
Oh, okay.
So half of me was like sitting there watching her reaction for half of the stuff. And she was quite passive about it. But in my mind, I was sitting there like, back in the day, this would have messed people up.
Yeah.
Like, and it was she jumped, and it's as bad as it is. She leapt out of her skin at the when they're looking down a pipe, and it's just a split second of the alien going. Ah.
Yeah.
But that in itself, I think, like parts of The Thing for me is one of my all-time favorite sort of sci-fi horrors. Like, still me up a little bit.
Yeah. Just I think sometimes, especially with sci-fi and sci-fi horror, it's just the crazy concepts they come up with. You know what I mean? That kind of like maybe we'll go there one day because we keep going more and more advanced with AI, things with AI too. You know what I mean? Like the way AI is going right now, and how more advanced it's getting. When it puts that idea into your head that you're like, that might happen. You know what I mean? Terminator, they might take over one day, or things like that. Or even if you've seen one of my favorites, like Interstellar.
Yeah.
if you've seen Interstellar, and it's just this idea of like traveling, but time being so like diluted and warped that you may be gone for a few years, and when you come back, your entire family's aged for generations, things like that. It's really quite interesting.
It's Event Horizon as well, isn't it? That
Yeah.
I was just getting into Warhammer when I watched that, and
Mm.
that proper messed me up. But that again, stone cold classic. I love it.
I remember I was in Edinburgh, I was in the army at the time, and I watched Event Horizon, and I'd actually got my own room in the army at this point. And I remember I missed the first 5 minutes of it. I think it was on BBC One. And I
Yeah,
then watched the rest of the film, and I was that freaked out that I had to go into the 4-man room to sleep in there 'cause I just didn't feel safe. Like, I was 20 at the time, 21 at the time, like,
trained
big
killer.
brave soldier apparently. Big brave soldier apparently. And it's like, going back, just touching back in Alien, right? I think Alien and maybe Predator was the only line of toys that you're allowed to get the toys, but you weren't allowed to watch the
Yeah,
film for some
yeah,
reason.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You'd have all
By
the
the
stupid
Colonial
things and all the
Marines,
mouths. And,
by the Colonial Marines, and help Ripley fight the alien. Like, well, can I watch Alien so I can know what I'm playing with? No, it's not suitable. Like,
Mm.
okay, but I'm able to play with the toys. Like, you're basically showing me what the horror is of this, like,
Oh yeah.
H.R. Geiger's horror machine that he's made, but I can't watch the film.
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember. I
you
remember having like the toy of the facehugger. It was like the Queen facehugger toy, and like they were
yeah,
really cool toys back then. I think they were like Kenner. I remember getting like £5 pocket money or something like that, or somebody gave me some birthday money. And I was like, I'm going to buy an alien figure. And I think I had the game for like the Master System and stuff like that, but
yeah.
I'd never really seen the films at that point. But yeah,
You are
they
right.
were horrifying.
I even remember the Alien versus Predator arcade game that was like
Yeah.
a side-scrolling Streets of Rage game. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. But again, hadn't seen Predator, hadn't seen Alien. I'm just playing this game. This is sick. This is the best thing ever. And then the first time I watched Predator, I was like, no, no.
Have you ever watched the honest trailers about Predator, where they go, so if the whole film is just them looking at trees, and then when you watch the film, you're going, so all they do is actually look at
Yeah,
trees. But like one of my favourite horror films, I watched that Talk to Me, which is on Netflix, an
Yeah.
Australian horror film,
Yeah.
pretty good. And Species, I actually wanted to try and get my wife to watch that. I loved Species back in the day. It was such a good idea. Natasha Henstridge and
yeah,
I think Matthew Madsen, was it? Or the one that was in all the Tarantino films. He's in it. That was a brilliant film. Because just that visualisation by H.R. Geiger, because it was basically like the xenomorph
Yeah.
to a certain
A little
extent.
bit. Yeah. That's the idea. She came down, kind of like replicated a human, and then tried to breed with humans.
Yeah.
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 I remember being in school when that come out and just seeing Natasha Henstridge outright. You're like, bloody hell. And then you find out she's an alien who sleeps with people. You're like, get me a copy on pirate. But no, wasn't allowed.
Yeah. Probably not going to
So
end well for you as well.
is your partner into Warhammer, or is she just another suffering track addicted widow?
She likes squigs.
It's
Yeah, she
a good
likes
start.
squigs. Yeah. I did try to get her to play it, but she was like, "Oh, she tattoos as well." So she's like, "We've got a lot in common. Like, you can have Warhammer." But one day I did. She does like all the gloom spites. Like a lot of her tattoo flash is like little mushrooms and babies and things like that. So she quite likes the little goblins. But she has actually painted me for my birthday. She painted me some like Warhammer stuff, like on tattoo flash. So it's like on paper, but. I did also in the lockdown get her to paint a squig, and for the first time seeing someone paint a little mini, it was a lot better than anything I'd ever done at that point. She got the gore down on the teeth, like beady black eyes on the squig, nice like purple blend on the tongue, and I was like, for the first time painting it, and then she give it like a cheeky little red bum, like it's been smacked or something like that. But yeah. Yeah, it was
Always
really
worrying when you sit there and this is your hobby and somebody else picks it up straight away and does it so much better than you and just isn't interested in
yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
always me.
So like
Yeah.
we have three questions that we ask everybody. on stream just for a bit of fun because
Mhm.
we're approaching our time here. So the first question is, Fildren, nonce or not nonce?
I'd probably go with he probably is a nonce.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah,
It
front
doesn't need
edge.
an
It's all
explanation.
it's no, it's all matter of perversions and weirdness in it. So, yeah, I'd say he probably is. I think chaos represent like a lot of the like negative, horrible parts of humanity, and I think that would probably yeah, Thorgrim's going to be the king of that, should we say?
And being a lover Pudwine, are you a massive fan of the Beatles? Do you pray to uh, John Lennon and Paul McCartney every day before you get up and before you go to bed? Or
I'm
do you hate
actually
the Beatles?
not from Liverpool, so I only moved here about 10 years ago, so I'm not like I wasn't born and raised on the Beatles at all. I think I quite like the stuff where they went to India and started taking acid and did a bit like trippy stuff, but a lot of the like boy bandy girls screaming at them kind of era, I'm like not really into that. I may get some love and some hate. I think in Liverpool it's the same sort of thing. People either love the Beatles or they're
Yeah.
not interested in it. Probably sick of seeing them because they're literally everywhere around the city. Yeah, me, I'll give or take it. I'll listen to some of the trippier stuff, but like I won't actively go out my way to do it.
And our final question on the trio quickfire: female space marines, yay or nay?
I'm more in the middle of like, as someone who kit bashes things, if you want to make something your own way, you want to put a female head on a space marine, by all means. Like, if that's what you want to do, then yeah. But in the lore and stuff, I think it's pretty written that it's not. And you have the Sisters of Battle to represent. They've got good armor. I think they're a great faction. My friend plays Sisters and stuff. I think they're a good representation. But like I said, if you want to do that, by all means, if you want to 3D print some female heads, it's up to you.
Yeah,
I did do a
you can
little bit of a Death Guard force at one point, and I just put in a couple of Sisters of Battle but corrupted to represent some Plague Marines.
yeah,
But I was like, Chaos, it doesn't really kind of go against the law too much.
you can see like space nuns. You can definitely see them like going to the old bad way as well.
Yeah, yeah,
A few bad
yeah.
ones sticking about.
I think in the law, I think there may be like one or two sisters that have ever fell to chaos, but yeah, I think that's a good kind of like. There's a lot of horror films where it's like the uncorruptible being trying to be corrupted by the devil
Yeah.
or something like that. I think it'd work for sisters and stuff as well. So I think you've got the representation there. But like I said,
Cool.
as somebody who kit bashes and makes my own stuff, if somebody wants to do it, and that's how they want to represent their army, then that's just up to them, I think.
Nothing is off the table.
Yeah.
So wait, we're just over there. We're here. So if you're happy enough to continue, we continue for another wee bit. Or if you've got things to do, people to see, was to prepare for, where can people find you? And is there anything you're working on and you want to be promoting this now?
So I'd say I'll probably obviously Orc Daggers is my that I'm on now is this account. My tattoo account it's Darren Daggers, but Daggers spelled properly, not like an orc would spell it. Darren with a Y, Darryn. Working on it at the minute. I'm making another squig off for somebody, but it's a commission, so I'm using the same model, but going how can I make it like different? But I haven't posted any pictures of that just yet because it's yeah, been commissioned and I'll probably post it once it's finished. Also, the other thing I'm working on at the moment is a little. So my war boss, in the narrative was Road Ripper, which is the war boss and war bike,
Nice.
which was great in ninth. He was like amazing. He came all the way through the narrative. But the war boss and war bike in 10th is pretty like rubbish.
Yeah.
So I think losing my war boss model in the narrative, I'm now converting the same character on the bike but onto a big squig. So it's going to be like a
Great.
Mozrog proxy.
Cool.
So I think I'm working on that at the moment as well, just so I can bring my character Road Ripper over to the narrative and actually do something in the game.
Cool.
Sweet. Cool.
Okay. Cool.
Anything you want to add, Penge, before we go?
For me, no, I've got nothing interesting to say ever, have I? So, I'm pretty much a blank slate. I've got not a lot on the go at the minute, but we are trying to. I will say that, don't put it in the chat earlier. We are trying to get a YouTube of all of these things together. We are ripping the videos and putting them onto YouTube now as an archive. Take a bit of pressure off the Instagram streams. We are sharing the YouTube link out. So please, if you're out there, subscribe to us on that, because the more people that do it, great. It's good for us. It's good for you, because you've got an archive. Graham McNeil episode is on there now, so that you can go back and have a look at. And just lastly, I would say the last thing is thanks again to our sponsors of Boltstorm Wargaming in Staffordshire. Leek, to be specific. If you are in Leek and you need some hobbies, go to there, not to the other place down the road, which is shit. Because they casually didn't mention they've got a competitor nearby, but they do. Leek is also good for fruit and veg. They do sell leeks in Leek.
That's all from us this week, folks. Again, thanks to Ordags,
Cheers, Alan.
Alan, Daz, for coming on, giving up his time as always. It's been great having you on, mate. And hopefully, if you're happy enough to come back on again, we extend the invitation to everybody. But we'd definitely like to hear more about your Morton Dorkin. Probably as a knock player, you probably, when you're kit bashing, you just pray that it all sticks together, which is probably typical
I do have
player style.
some like frustrating times sometimes where I'm just trying to super glue a certain thing that doesn't want to stick,
Yeah.
and the entire thing explodes in my hand, and then I get covered in super glue, and yeah, that does
You glue
happen.
your hand
So
to your head, and
yeah, but I think that even that's pretty okay. I think you have to laugh at your misfortunes in that way.
yeah.
Thanks again for coming on, folks. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Stay safe with the wind and weather warnings this week.
Yeah.
And see you all next week. I don't want to say the guest because I think it's what Great Studios, but I've been wrong before. But we'll be promoting.
You've got the diary. You look at it.
Yeah, but I can't actually see it right now. And the Ordags will be up within the next 24 hours. I'll be whipping my son to get it on the YouTube channel. Thanks for everybody. Have a
Doesn't
lovely
actually
day.
whip him. Don't get the social on him.
I just saw X Island, they're used to it.
All right. Catch you all later, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers again, Darren.
See you later.
There you go. Martial War next week.
March of War next Wednesday on the Inquisition.